I'm here with Mark Nelson of Rio Grande, and today we're talking about natural materials. But what happens oftentimes, though, is that natural materials can be not only hard to find, but in many cases endangered.
That's exactly right.
So what Mark is going to do is to show us how to create the look of natural materials using other fine pieces.
Right.
And these are great examples of what we're going to do. We're looking at the necklaces right now.
Basically, this is a PVC type material, plastic material, that when you work it, you can make it look exactly like bone.
That's incredible.
Right.
Because you would never think. And then even this one, we have incorporated some other sort of lampwork beads with it, too.
That's right, handmade beads and textured to add interest.
Well, I'm curious to see how we're going to get that look, so let's get started. Let's talk about the materials.
Material comes in a sheet plastic, and what you want to do is decide on the shape that you want. This stuff is highly carvable. You can carve it like you would, or you can cut it work it like you would a sheet metal. And what you want to use is a really coarse blade, because this stuff will clog your blades really easily.
Really?
And I want to make a 1-inch square, so I'm going to take these dividers and just mark where I want to cut. The line's a little hard to see because it's all white, but when you get your light up, you can see it. And one note is that this stuff creates kind of a fine dust, and it carries a little static charge.
Really?
So I do not suggest wearing fleece when you're doing this, because it kind of attaches to your clothes. But it saws fairly easily.
It does.
Yeah, and as you're cutting it, it'll emit a slight odor, but that's okay, because it is plastic. You just don't want to heat it up and melt it.
Okay.
And you'll end up with like a real kind of fuzz here. You can break that off with your finger. It is kind of rather hard, so it's easy to file. And you can clean up all your cuts that way.
That blade you use is almost like a serrated knife, sort of,
You know what it is actually a jeweler's saw blade. One of the smaller ones that's been twisted.
Wow.
So that allows it to cut the plastic without it getting loaded up. And it has these little burrs on here that you can just break off with your fingernail.
Okay.
And we got it shaped. And then you can take some sandpaper. And this is really smooth, so if you put paint or ink or anything on there, it's not going to stay. You need to give it like a tooth. And I recommend something like 400 grit sandpaper or 320. And this is going to give it the grain for that paint to stick in there.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So you need to have a little bit of something on the surface.
Right. And you want to, soften your edges and stuff like that, too.
Yeah, how long would you do that for?
As much as you like. There's no rules to this. It's just basically whatever look you're looking for. You can leave the file marks, which leave a really nice texture, or you can sand to almost a polish.
Okay.
Now what you want to do is you want to start adding the detail. And one of the reasons I love this material, it's very much an artistic material. If you like drawing and painting, you could do anything you want on this, because in the end it's going to look a little bit like scrimshaw.
Like a blank canvas.
It is extremely a blank canvas. And you go in here and you draw, and you inscribe here with a scribe or a sharp tool. This could be a craft knife.
So you're basically drawing by
scratching.
By scratching.
Right.
Not really drawing with a pen or a marker or anything like that.
No. You can lay out your designs with a pen or a pencil, and then you can go ahead and scratch. You got to scratch it in.
We've got a heart there, I think.
Start with a heart. And the more detail you add, the better the image is going to be.
Okay.
And once you have it all complete, and you can use drawing techniques like cross-hatching, stippling, and all that stuff.
Ooh, got some paint work in here.
And you just smear it on.
What kind of paint is that?
This is an acrylic paint, so it sticks really good. It's going to be a durable piece of jewelry.
Okay, so I have to ask you, why are you using your finger as opposed to using a paintbrush or something like that?
I'm just messy.
But could you do it with a paintbrush if you
Paintbrush,
wanted to?
I really like to paint with toothpicks because they're disposable.
Oh, that's right, you flatten down the end.
Right.
Okay.
They're disposable and you don't have to clean them up. Q-tips work great too.
So any like cotton swab in there.
Right. And see, now your image is popping out. See?
Oh.
And then you don't stop there though.
Of course not.
No, you can take this up, and the more you work it, this material, the better it's going to look. And if you don't like it, you can always just sand it off. And try different types of sandpaper. This cloth material works really well. It's soft and really fine grained. And just a very light touch, I can come in here and work certain areas to make it more polished looking, more worn looking. I can wear down the edges. And any kind of nicks or mistakes,
Right.
only gave them more character, you know?
So you're basically putting the black paint on and then taking it off, and the residue that's left is left in those, really the lines that you kind of engraved in it.
Exactly. And it gives it very
And
much
it's really just giving it definition.
Right. Now let's say the stuff you can polish, you can polish it on your jeans. If you're just sitting watching TV, you can rub it on your jeans because it's perfect to polish plastic, which is also a good way to polish amber, by the way. You can use a really fine grit sandpaper like 3000 grit or 8000 grit and just gently rub it, and it'll give it a much more kind of worn look and a slight sheen to it.
Now, if we had, I know you were showing a heart before, you were engraving one, but what if as you were cutting it, you were cutting a shape that was a little more irregular, almost like the bone that we saw in the beginning?
Right.
You know, we saw that necklace that had that bone design.
Basically, I use carving techniques to do that.
So it's almost like carving wood or
Exactly.
something like that?
Yeah, really close to wood. A little bit like plaster. And I use wax carving tools to do that with. And you lay it out on a thick sheet.
So because
like that.
these come in obviously different layers.
Thicknesses, right.
So you do something like that.
And that all started from a flat sheet. And you just carve and carve with a craft knife, carving tools with a flex shaft, and things like that. Because this stuff can be drilled, it can be stamped, you can inlay epoxies into it. It's very, very versatile and very much an artistic medium.
Absolutely. So how are we doing with this? Are we done?
We can keep going. We got, to do this bracelet, I
Yeah.
had to link it together.
Let's go ahead and do the bracelet.
So I found some screw eyes, and all I need to do there is use a flex shaft.
I knew there had to be some kind of heavy tool.
You know what I mean.
That's right.
And but I found these screw eyes that work great as a linking device, and you just go ahead and drill your hole. Now when you're drilling this material, don't drill too fast because it comes off in these little slivers, and they start to get hot and they'll melt.
Really?
And it gets a little hard to keep drilling once they do that.
Right. And of course I see you're wearing your safety glasses.
Yes. Try to always use safety glasses when you're using a flex shaft or a rotary tool.
So those are just little
And you want little pins, and I want to make sure that my hole is deep enough so that I can glue those in there. And once they're glued in there, I can link them all together with jump rings.
Oh, look at all the designs you made on
Right.
these. Now, with these, did you just draw them individually? Make the mark on them and then just do it with the paint like you showed you before?
Just like I did before. And the neat thing about this is you can use any kind of color of paint. And if you want to mix your paints to get unique colors, you can do that too. So your palette is wide open.
But now, did you do, for instance, this one has the black, the white, and the red. So before we did the black all over
Right.
just to get that sort of outline, but if you to keep the white, did you use your, you said you like to paint with a toothpick?
Yeah.
Did you have to paint that separately and be a little bit more precise?
I did. And what I did is I worked from the inside out. That way it's a little easier to do. I painted the red, let it dried, and then I sanded it down so you could see the marks that I made. And then I followed up with some black on the edges and the outside. One thing you can also do is use an eraser from a pencil as a slight abrasive and kind of clean this up if you get, because this is smooth and that paint won't stick. So you can use a pencil or eraser or something like that to get in the detail and take those out. Same with the stop sign. I start from the inside and work to the outside. And one thing to note is that the deeper you make your scribes and the more dense, the deeper the color will be.
So if you want to have that darker color, then go a little bit heavier.
Right.
As you're doing
Make
that.
more marks.
Are you taking your driving test or something?
No, I was just thinking about the things I see every day.
Every
so.
day, Route 66.
That's
I
right.
love that, very famous. Let's take a look again at what Mark brought with him. These pieces right in the center, those are the pieces that are made, which is just incredible to me, from this material.
Right. Very versatile.
Inlaid silver as well. Fantastic. Thank you.